read you a little bit about my dad's life. Many of you might know him just as the greeter at the door at Summit Church, but he was so much more than that. He did so much more than that. His life was so much more than that. And his real name, for some of you who don't know, was Clarence. His mother was Swedish. We'll just put it that way. She thought Swedish was a very proper name, a very good name. And it's my middle name, Wayne Clarence Hanson. Now, if you don't mind keeping that a secret from the listeners, I normally go by C, Wayne C. Hanson. Clarence Bud Hanson passed away January 31st at the age of 80. He was born on January 28th, 1931. His parents were Edward and Esther Larson Hanson. Edward from Norway when 18, and Esther, second generation of Swedish immigrants. And there were 13 children in the family. And there were 6 boys, 6 girls who lived to adulthood and all married and had 46 grandchildren. And that's going to be a big celebration tomorrow night up in Minneapolis with their great-great-grandchildren as well. Many wonderful times at the family farm near Alma Center, Wisconsin. And since then, besides the siblings, we've enjoyed great relationships with our nieces and nephews. Many of the family settled around the Minneapolis area. Bud began a church in Medford, Wisconsin in 1952, and then responded to the call to pastor a church in Park Falls Assembly of God in 1956, where he met and married Waverly. He married late, but better late than never. Together they pastored churches in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, right on the Canadian border. In 1960, Schoolcraft, Michigan. 1964, Berkeley, Michigan, which is when I came into the picture. 1966, Watertown, Wisconsin. 1976, Wautoma, Wisconsin. 1980, Tecumseh, Michigan. 1984 to 1992. Their sons, Brent and Wayne, are in the ministry, and their son, Steve, who preceded him in death, was also serving as a music minister. After moving to Minneapolis, Bud served on staff at Eden Prairie Assembly of God as a visitation pastor in 1994. While in Minneapolis, he also served as a volunteer leader of senior ministry at Westwood Interdenominational Church. In addition, he served as a supporting pastor for other pastors in International Ministerial Fellowship and a Missions Fellowship, if I remember correctly, which was also an interdenominational credentialing ministry. After moving to Colorado in 2000, he served at the Fellowship Church in Grand Junction as a pastor to seniors to 2000, another interdenominational church. Since living near Denver, he served the West of 50 Christian Camping Group as a volunteer pastor from 2004. And he also had the honor of assisting his son Wayne as a volunteer planting Summit Church of Castle Rock in 2007, and continued to serve until his recent illness in early December. In lieu of flowers, 2 memorial funds are established designating for outreach ministries. We're calling at Summit the Bud Hanson Evangelism Fund, and we'd love to have you donate to that because he was all about reaching the lost. He was all about getting the gospel out there. And my brother's church, New Song Community Church in Detroit, is doing the same thing. Their web address is ignitedetroit.com. If you want to see a fiery ministry, check them out. It's pretty amazing, and I think what God is doing at Summit is pretty amazing as well. That just a few years ago, this thing didn't exist, and now look, there's a room full of people in Castle Rock celebrating this incredible man of God. I wanted to invite my mother to come and share a few words, and Mom, if you're comfortable doing that, come at this time and share what's on your heart.
Pretty nice to have a backup plan. Wayne was ready to be my backup plan if I couldn't do it. I said, I think I can do it tonight. So I want to read some of the memories I wrote down today and share them with you. And then our son Brent has a long memorial on his website, so I'm not going to read it all, but I want to read just a little bit from him as well, because I know he would love to be here. How can I sum up a lifetime together in just a few paragraphs? Where to even start? Maybe back to the beginning when we met, when I was just 19 years old. One of the first things I was attracted to was Bud's nice smile, friendly ways, and obvious love and dedication to God, which was number one on my list. But the other things were his consistency and his lack of pretense. What you see is what you get. That's really what Bud was like, was truly descriptive of him. Whether or not he felt like doing something unpleasant didn't detract him from the fact that it had to be done, and he did it, rain or shine. Often when he was struggling with a problem about how to fix something, whether it was a mechanical thing or whether it was a people problem, in the morning he would want to talk about the solution that had come to him during the night. So that was pretty fun. And then I also said that his consistency was never to be doubted. He would truly try to be and do whatever he thought was the right thing to do, or if he felt like he had goofed in some way, he was quick to ask forgiveness, to apologize. One of the other things I loved about him, and also sometimes frustrated me, was that he was such a nice guy that he couldn't fathom anybody else being any different than that. Because of that, I thought he was often too trusting of others, like when people asked for handouts and promised to pay him back. In later years, I would ask him to tell me about anyone that had ever paid him back. He would sometimes still say, well, it still could happen. One time I remember him telling me, wouldn't you, he said, I'd rather be like that than be cynical and distrustful, and wouldn't you rather I be like that too? And I had to admit that that was true. What a guy. Sometimes later on, when someone would say they would pay him back, he'd say, well, if you do, it'll be the first time. People never knew what to say when he'd say that. The fun part of being married for a long time was that we had been able to work out and agree on most of our differences and agree to disagree on the matters that we needed to. And we seldom had big disagreements anymore. Bud said since he gave up his self-improvement program for me, that we got along fine. Of course, I did the same most of the time, and we appreciated each other's gifts. One of the rewarding things about living a long time is that we had the privilege of seeing some of the fruits of our early investments in people. We were blessed by hearing from many of the young people over the years that had been impacted by God from some of the seeds sown in their lives earlier. We were truly partners in ministry, which was very rewarding throughout the years, along with the tears and frustrations. Before we were even married, I remember telling him that he would make a great dad, and he really was that. We were blessed with our sons, Brent, Steve, and Wayne, and also having Karen, our niece, with us for about 3 years during high school. Welcoming Brent's and Wayne's partners, Debbie and Kim, into the family was also a precious time, along with Connie, who was Steve's fiance. We loved the coming of our dear grandchildren into our lives over the last nearly 16 years. Brent and Debbie's, Spencer, Joshua, and Autumn, and Wayne and Kim's, Zach, Max, Gracie, and Lily. What happy times. How wonderful it is to be able to say that he lived a very full life with few regrets. I could no longer wish him to stay here. Much as he didn't want to leave us, when he could no longer function and actively participate in life, what a blessing for him to go as easily as he did, with his heart just stopping. He had a very active life until early December and did reach his 80th birthday, which he had prayed for. Although as he got closer to 80, he did want to renegotiate for a few more years. He is greatly missed, but we are comforted to know he is now very happy and truly free. Of course, we always grieve for ourselves as we miss him greatly. One of the things he said over the years, many, many times, was the future is always bright for the believer or for the child of God. Always better days ahead, whether here or there. There is now real to him, and we have the assurance that we'll all be together again in that perfect, wonderful place prepared for us.